Right, welcome into another chance for me to practice my reaction content. All right, this is gonna be real slop. I'm gonna full on react to everything that's been going on in this whole thing. All right, what is this? Which one do I start with? Someone has lied to you. Let's start with Hassan's video that just came up. And let's see what he has to say.
But it is
I'm just gonna,
emblematic of all of America's much
okay.
more consequential violence. Okay? It's the same reason as to why America, Kaya, please just fucking go, just stop.
Mm, gross.
Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
Okay, so is my commentary working here? You can hear me fine? And I think you can hear his video as well.
Someone is clearly reaching for a button of some kind.
Why are people mad about you, Kaya? Slash, what were you doing? People speculated that I was actually shocking her. The clip looks fucking horrible, and they're like, "Oh,
Is
he's
he
got
not
a
shocking her?
button on his desk." I do not have a shock collar for Kaya. As I
You don't
said
have a shock
yesterday,
collar.
doesn't matter. People don't give a shit. All of the other
So his stance is he doesn't have a shock collar for Kaya. There's Kaya chilling. He does not have a shock collar. Okay.
the other clips that people have been showing are either the AirTag or the vibration collar that she
Okay.
has. Can you
So
just
he's
stop?
he's distinguishing between a shock collar and a vibration collar. Now, those would both fall under the umbrella term as an e-collar. You call those an electric collar. So he's admitting to using an electric collar. We can, okay. So he's saying that people did see her wearing an e-collar. He just said that. That's an uncontroversial statement. She's been wearing an e-collar. He's been doing e-collar training, shouldn't be logically entailed from that. But it doesn't necessarily follow. Maybe he hasn't been training her or improperly training her. But we'll get into that, and I'll talk about my expertise as a trainer because I didn't lead off the video very well, but I am a dog trainer and I've worked with special breeds, large breeds. I've had dogs my entire life, and I've had to relearn a lot through my life because you can often think you know everything about dog training and then lead dogs into situations that then you get untrained out of. Now, we'll get into all of that as the drama unfolds, and I will give my full opinion on every single, little piece, and we'll disrupt this a lot. This is going to be a long form commentary.
Shut everyone up. XU said he would donate 50K to a shelter if he did. This is one of Kaya's many callers.
Okay, this is one of Kaya's many callers. She has many callers. This is one of them. This is the e caller. Allegedly a vibration only function e caller. Okay, let me get full screen here so I can really see. Okay.
This is the one that people are talking about. It has the capacity to vibrate, and that's it. There's the AirTag.
What? What?
Saw the clip and were like, "This looks so bad," and they got completely fucking duped by the.
Is my jump cutting working? I just want to double check that's working. Whoa! Whoa! Yeah, okay, jump cut's working.
Timing of it, and it's all right. I understand. For those of you who are confused by it, I do not have a shock collar for Kai.
He does not have a shock collar for Kaya. Interesting statement. But he does have an e-collar for Kaya.
As I said yesterday, but it doesn't matter. People don't give a shit. All of the other clips that people have been showing are either the AirTag or the vibration collar.
He's calling it a vibration collar. I've never heard that term before. We can call it, for all intents and purposes, just to disambiguate and make things clear and not confuse people, lead them on a wild goose chase. It's an e-collar.
She has, which I use when she's free roaming. You didn't refute the claim.
Oh, he uses the e-collar just for free roaming. I've heard of this before. I thought he lived in LA though. So I don't know what he means by free roaming. Does he have a mansion that she free roams in, and he wants to call her up from like the fourth floor, or like she's 2 stories down, and he wants to press a button and she comes upstairs? Because I've trained dogs to do that. That's a cool command. And dogs won't be scared of their e-collar if that's their only command with it. If it's a specialized return up the stairs command. Also, maybe if you have a large enough property, there's reasons for an e-collar recall. Um, dog's gonna come bounding through your window, so happy to come get fed or something because like, oh, I'm done with my job outside watching the farm. I can come home and get some security in the house. That's so awesome. Things like that. Those are legitimate things you can train a dog to do with an e-collar. Uh, so if that's what he's claiming is that it's for when she's free roaming, then she wouldn't need to wear it on stream, first of all, right? Unless it's for a different command.
Until now, no, I have. I did immediately. And the vibration collar for off leash training doesn't work in the way that you guys think it does. Her hair is far too thick, as this chatter also correctly pointed out, for there to be any sort of collar that actually works in that way.
I don't know about that. Shock collars on a Tibetan Mastiff, you could shave an area near the close to the neck. As simple as that. Hair isn't something you can't shave. So there's some people who maintain a groomed area around the neck for the collars, regardless of it being a shock collar. Sometimes they just keep the hair shorter around there so they can have a fixed grabbing point that's not their neck meat. Because you can grab dogs by their neck meat, but that's kind of aggressive and can send the wrong signals. So a lot of people want an anchor point of a collar. So for some dogs with lots of hair, chow chows, other dogs, they get a cut so that allows them to be able to access the collar, and that's for their own convenience and accessibility and training. So I guess he doesn't want to groom his dog that way. Fine.
This
But oh
is
yeah, but yeah, the point is that the shock collar wouldn't work, so he's using an e-collar, a vibration e-collar instead for the recall command only, is what I've heard.
is one of the most insane sagas that I have participated in so far. It is laughable because, once again, I have been around so many other content creators, people that do like literally animal welfare advocacy and things of that nature. This dog is a famous dog, and she is one of
Well,
the most
she's so she's a famous dog. There's an incentive for her to be on camera for him, and I would hazard to say that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't have a means to the end to an ends relationship with your dog, even though they are technically your property. They should be your family and your companions, and you would never set up your family or companions to be a means to an end. That's simply unethical. So I don't think a dog should be incentivized to be on camera. Even if I had a separate camera that shows my dog in his place right now, in his little, he's in his crate happy, he could come out and come over and see me. Even if I had a separate camera, dual streaming, I don't, and he's separately just on his own trained to go stay there, and you guys can see him. But then it would change my training because I'd be incentivized for him to stay there long periods, even though he does sleep there for like a long time. So that incentive would be an ethical dilemma. And I think the best way to circumvent that ethical dilemma and seem genuine and authentic and true to myself is just not to do that. So I don't, I've thought of it, but I'm not ever going to stream a separate camera that just shows my dog because I don't think that's really the right relationship to have with your dog. And I would never sacrifice the relationship with my dog for any amount of money or clout online or anything like that. My relationship with my dog is the most important thing in the world to me. So I would never allow anything to change that or pollute it, with some other motive, right? It's not about money. He's just a beautiful creature that I'm so lucky to be able to take care of. And he's out of the bed that we were cuddling in earlier, but I steamed the sheets last night, so he didn't want to get out of I didn't want to get out of my bed to have breakfast this morning. He was so comfy in the steamed sheets. I haven't steamed sheets for us in a long time. It's worth it. I need to do that more. I don't think I've been given my hairless dog the life he deserves without the steam sheets every time I change the bed. It should honestly be that good. Okay, back to what he's talking about his dog.
taken care of dogs of all time. Like
Oh, she's spoiled? Is that what you say?
straight up lives
He probably does live a better existence than him. I would agree that most dogs living with their owners are, living a better life than their owners. So this guy lives in LA. That's a shitty place. Excuse my language. That's a sugary place to live. Uh, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone to live in LA, let alone a dog. We'll get into that. So yeah, life for a dog even in a big house in LA. Look at that room. That's like the room I used to have. That's a pretty small room. That little bed the dog's on is obviously like okay, but for a dog that size, that's like that dog should have this entire room if this dog was really spoiled. Um, Honestly, if this dog was really spoiled, that's what I would say. She should have this entire room. That would be like a cool spoiled dog setup.
Lives a better existence than many of you do. Definitely lives a better life than my haters do. That's for sure. As someone who almost
I
always
don't know.
wears
I'm
a
not a
shock collar,
hater.
the clip where you mentioned buying a shock collar before, and the other clip where you talk about Frenchies and your response to the collar being too tight, were all disappointing. But yeah, I'm sorry, everyone is just accusing you of something so awful. Yeah, the clips that they're using are from like 10 years ago when I was talking about not using a shock collar. That's what I mean. That's what's so crazy.
So 10 years ago, he talked about not using a shock collar. Logically, that entails that his opinion could have changed over 10 years, right? So that's why people might bring that up. And he's not really giving credence to that sort of logical flow of thinking, which is just interesting.
About it because like in the clip that they're using from like literally 10 years ago when
Yeah,
I had a
yeah.
different dog, my former dog had
Yeah.
passed away.
So, yeah. So, like I said earlier, when you have dogs your whole life over decades, you're going to learn and change training methods and be open to new ideas. And you have to be open to new ideas because every dog is different, whether it be a different breed or not. Their disposition, the individual disposition of each dog is different. So you have to be open to new training methods that might be applicable to that dog in your life circumstances in this changing world that we live in. So it would make sense that 10 years ago you'd have one dog, that dog would die, and you'd either had learned from your mistakes with that dog or wanted to double down erroneously in mistakes that no one ever educated you out of, would be the issue. So it's really important to work with lots of dog trainers and educate yourself on dog training so that you don't just fall into those traps, right? Because it's really easy to think you're on the right path of dog training and then do a lot more harm than good. And if you're lucky and you know what you're doing, you can take a step back and not sensitize your dog or not, do more harm than good with your training. If you're over aggressively training a dog that might be reactive, or you can even create a reactive dog by training it with over correction at high obedience levels if it's not the disposition of a dog to be an obedience dog. I've had obedience dogs. I would recommend the best dog to be an obedience dog for everyone would be a golden retriever, but almost any dog could be an obedience dog. But like I said earlier, individual dispositions mean that some dogs might have a lower obedience threshold, and you don't want to push them to a higher obedience with stricter training methods because that can actually, over the long term, create reactivity, insecurity, and motivation by fear. And motivation by fear is the root of aggression. So that's where an owner might have failed a dog, is when they're motivated out of fear. Now, I know a lot about this because I have a reactive dog. So he is motivated out of fear sometimes, and that is really tough to navigate. So I'm willing to navigate these conversations, even with owners that know that their dogs have experienced difficult life circumstances. This doesn't invalidate anyone from owning a dog, right? Everyone can have a dog, even if their dog's like traumatized, right? You can still have a dog. So this seems like a pretty healthy, happy dog, which is why people can be hypercritical about him. Because a dog in these sort of life circumstances that he's talking about, so safe and coddled and never experienced any trauma, she should behave a certain way. And as a dog behaviorist, you can reverse engineer the training of the dog through the dog's behavior. So if I want to and scour or skim Hassan's recent VODs and react to the behavior of Kaya in those recent VODs, I might do that because we can see before this controversy how she was behaving, and we can analyze that, and we can see after, and we can deduce certain things because behavior can only change so rapidly for a dog. Certain things might cause that behavior to change more rapidly, like foreign intervention from drugs or
Straight up in the OG clip
electric
before,
collars.
someone suggested I get a bark collar because fish actually barks quite a bit.
Okay, so Fish's old dog barked quite a bit. I imagine that presented issues for streaming.
My previous dog. Here, this is what. There's a bunch of clips that are going around right now. People are trying to build this narrative. Here's the 19-second clip.
People who are people? People trying to build a narrative, but the narrative is just what? Like, we'll go into someone else's video to see what the counter narrative is,
I'm gonna show you
apparently,
what they're using currently.
after we fully react to this.
For Fish and his dogs. I have it still. I bought it. That's weird. What is that flash cut in between?
I've not seen this edit, so I don't know. Did he make this edit?
I have it still.
I don't know who's making that edit. That seems like Hasan. I see that this is Hasan's own edit. Like he's trying to like create opposition that doesn't exist.
They are incredibly effective. Here is the original clip. They wanted to use a shock collar.
Yeah, okay, this is the clip that I saw.
Fish and his dogs. For Fish and his dogs barking. I couldn't do it. I have it still. I bought it.
So he has a shock collar. So he used to use a different collar, a prong collar, but then he pivoted to using an e-collar for training her. So he says that he has a shock collar, never used the shock collar. Then he gets a separate. So this is the story. He has Fish, his old dog, with a prong collar. That dog dies. Sometime during this period of time between Fish dying and this video, he's gotten a shock collar. He says, presumably doesn't have Fish's old collar. The old prong collar's gone. Says, okay, I have a shock collar, but I'm not going to use it. Gets Kaya in what year? 2023. And at this point, orders another collar and uses this collar at some point to train Kaya. Is this what we're saying? This e collar to train Kaya. Only for recall, alleged. So the e collar is for recall, which is a reasonable reason for some people to use e collars. But I just want to call into question, and I'll get more into this. The use of an e-collar in LA. I'm not too familiar with LA, but I just don't know like how big are the parks. Because he's saying, I don't know, let's see what he's saying.
They are incredibly effective. That's literally from like 20.
But then he says they're incredibly effective. And he's saying this is what, like 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, he was acknowledging that they're incredibly effective. So 10 years later, it follows that he might have either gone one or two ways. Either he or stayed in that position on the fence, being like, I'm not sure which are one. Is this guy a fence sitter? Does he sit on like an argument and not decide which way or the other, or does he take one position? I don't know. Um, so would he just go like onto one side and be like, I'm gonna have more of what I've always done, which is the prong collar, and then further into that would be the shock collar and the e collar. A prong collar is definitely bad. It's no better. Well, a prong collar, it doesn't make, I would say a prong collar is much worse than a vibration collar. A vibration collar, if used correctly, could be a really useful tool that a dog could like. If you sensitize a dog, however, which means the dog becomes like super aware of the collar and they're sensitized to it with negative reinforcement, like they'd ever been given a shock collar and then you switch to an e collar, that's horrible. That's really, really horrible. That's super scary for the dog. And that will be incredibly effective, but the efficacy of that is like hitting an elephant with a cane, right? Oh, the efficacy of hitting an elephant with a cane. I don't know if we know how that pans out, but like, you don't want to hit elephants with canes. It's not a good idea. Shocking dogs can be incredibly effective until it isn't. Same with the e-collar. So that's why if they're sensitized to the e-collar, you've failed that training and you can't use the e-collar. They should never be sensitized to it. It should be a positive reinforcement for the recall. And it's going to be like a super happy thing. They finished their job outside and they're returning to you. But it's not necessarily because they can't hear you at a distance, because dogs have like 20 times better hearing than humans. And they have a higher hearing profile range. They can hear higher frequencies and lower frequencies. So if you blow a high pitched whistle, dogs can hear that at an incredible distance, absolutely astronomical, and they can hone in if you keep giving them noise. They can hone into your location over vast distances. So most people for long distance recall would rely on a whistle because that's going to be much more reliable than any sort of Wi-Fi connection. I don't know, like I haven't looked into these long distance radio callers, but I know those exist for working dogs.
18 or some shit, but I couldn't do it. Damn, why'd they cut it like that? Why don't you let her roam around the house? I'm not a hate watcher, just curious. Okay, so let me address a couple.
So yeah, why doesn't she roam around the house? I looked into his other VODs, and she's always like in the room for the entire stream for all his other VODs until after October 7th when this happened. Now we see her getting out of the room a lot more. But before that, which we can verify by going back and looking at the streams, she was stuck on camera for long lengths of period for the entire stream, I believe.
Couple things really quickly. First and foremost, I have done this. I have addressed this a million times over. I've also shown in videos like Kaya's day-to-day experiences and stuff like that.
So
Obviously,
the thing is, this is how social media is like Hollywood, right? Like you don't believe everything you see on screen. Like what Hassan shows us of his dog, right, doesn't reflect reality. You have to take that with a grain of salt, right? Like we can see an Instagram of a dog. How do you really know that dog's living the perfect life, right? I'm not going to pretend like my Instagram proves that I have the perfect life for my dog. You'd have to see it to believe it, honestly. That's not so crazy to say. That's how reality works. Seeing things through a screen obviously doesn't represent some like high level of reality. So the evidence that he's proposing, this photo evidence of his dog living a good life, I'm not saying I doubt it. Dog probably lives a very decent life in LA. LA or any high density city like that, metropolitan area, it's gonna be a really difficult area for a dog to have a high quality of living. So that dog is lucky to have lucked out with a really rich person who can afford to pay for trainers and vet bills and all these things. So totally, this dog's balling out in a lot of ways. But I don't know. I want to call into question the dog's behavior and their specific relationship and the quality of that relationship. Because I always think anyone who's a good dog owner, they will always believe they can do better for their dog. They will never think that they've done too much, right? Anyone will know if they're a good dog owner in their heart and they have their heart in the right place. They'll be like, oh, I could do more for my dog. Oh, yeah, I'm totally giving them everything they want and I'm walking them for 6 hours a day. 6 hours a day would be a good, like, thing for a dog to walk. So I don't know how old Kaya is. If Kaya, let's say, is like 2 or 3, like a really young dog of that size, 6 hours per day, no cap. 6 hours unrestricted outdoor activity per day, like split up so she gets rest as she wants it and not like high like athletic activity like running her with a ball. You want to only do that like maybe once per day max. um but 6 hours free roam activity per day for sure. For a 2 or 3 year old dog, you want them to build as much muscle as possible in those ages to assist them in their early age to maintain and maintain that muscle in their late age. So to prevent and help them deal with that arthritis, it's going to set in at some point, especially if they live in a metropolitan area. It's going to be hard to get all that activity that I'm talking about unless you own a lot of land and have a big yard, uh, or live really close to a perfect park that you let her off leash in. Um, so, you know, just that's my thoughts.
Well, she has an incredibly active morning, and not
She's an incredibly active morning. So what's his stance on an incredibly active morning? I used to have a big dog. An incredibly active morning for me would be I wake up at the crack of dawn and the dog's still sleeping. I get the dog out the door as it, starts to get to sunrise, and we go for a good 45-minute walk, come back, feed the dog. As soon as the dog is done eating, go out, another 45-minute walk. So that's an hour and a half in the morning. The dog will rest for a while, and then eventually it'll be time for our 2.5 hour midday walk. So 2.5 hour midday, an hour and a half in the morning. That leaves us with that 5 hours, and then around nighttime, we'll have like another hour. So that sounds like a lot, right? Well, that was how I walk my obedience dog because when you have an obedience dog and you want them to be that obedient, you need to have them in a regiment, which means you have to live with them in that regiment, right? You can substitute that for training if you're rich enough, I guess, for like paying trainers, but it's not gonna have the same qualities that you spend 6 hours per day and like all that time, like with that dog. And especially in those formative years, it's really important. So yeah, an hour and a half in the morning would be really good, plus another 2.5 hours mainly for a big long trek.
Not only that, but she also has an incredibly active afternoon. She gets
Afternoon.
hours of playtime every morning at the
Oh, 2 hours. 2 hours is good.
either the gym or at the park that I go to.
2 hours is
And
good.
as a big dog, as big dogs
2
often
hours is good.
she passes the fuck out for extended periods of time throughout the day. On top
Big dogs will pass out for extended periods of time throughout the day. That's so true. Um, Around their owners, you're going to see them get really active, like perking up, listening to you talk. If you're a streamer, you know,
of that, at night in the
they're not
afternoon,
they're not going to be like out
they
like a
go for
light
their
though. Like dogs are going to be aware of their surroundings.
hour-long walk. The reason why she gets another hour-long walk is because sometimes she gets bored, and that's understandable. Other times she runs up to the door when my mom comes in. As far as not letting her roam in the room itself, there's a very specific purpose for that. That is because, and this is something that I've described over and over again, the reason why she's not allowed to roam inside of this room, with the
So you're saying she's allowed to go out whenever she wants? What's this then? So this is timestamps of how long she's there. She's just pacing back and forth there. For an hour, she's pacing back and forth, looking at the door and looking at him for an hour, looking back at the door and looking at him. And she switches back and forth, back and forth. She won't step off. We're gonna go and analyze this more. So it's been 2 hours. She's still trying to like figure out how can she get off this thing.
reason as to why America, Kaya, please just fucking go, just stop.
So she was there for 2 hours and 19 minutes before he zapped her, where she was pacing back and forth on her bed at the obedience threshold, trying to figure out how can I escape the situation, trying to communicate non-verbally with her owner by looking at him because she knows that she'll get some sort of vibration that'll scare her if she vocalizes. So she's communicating with her body language, looking back and forth, pacing back and forth, looking at her, nibbling at her groin because she's full of poop and pee. She needs to go to the washroom. And then she finally barks and he zaps her. She goes back to her obedience threshold. So that was a vibration that sounded like maybe she was shocked in the past and now she's given vibrations and it scares her back into lying down. Um, that would be what I would say that behavior is. And now she's stuck at the threshold, staring at the door. She's trying to communicate she wants to go to the door. Oh, she goes back and forth, still staring at the door. Well, her head is down. That's sort of like defeated and submissive. But she's not sleeping. She keeps looking up, micro adjusting, micro adjusting, micro adjusting, micro adjusting. And notice in this video, because I don't think she's on any trabzone or any sort of drugs in this stream, she's always moving. Look how she twitches her leg and she's always moving, even when she's sleeping. You see all these movements, right? All these movements in the time lapse. She sort of passes out for half an hour, but you see she's twitching and she readjusts, readjusts. So look, it's been more than an hour since he zapped her, and she's still stuck there. She hasn't gone off the threshold. Now, if that's a command to be a place command for 4 hours, he has to talk about why there was a place command for 4 hours. Maybe admit that that was a mistake on his part. Or is it something that's trade practice for her to keep the place? Because that's what I was talking about at the onset of this video. That's an ethical dilemma that I don't know why you would set up with your dog, right? Why would you make their place, their personal bed, a place where they are visible to people on stream? Because then you're incentivized to make the dog stay there so people can look at the dog and enjoy the dog and keep them on stream, right? like viewer retention, right? And that is not what a dog's for. So is this a viewer retention thing? His dog's staring at the door, looking at him back and forth. It's been 4 hours. It is 2 hours since the zap. Now that's what tells me this level of obedience comes from some intense sort of training to stay 2 hours after feeling a vibration. That's a pretty intense amount of like training. You could say that's good training. I don't know. I would say it might be a little much, might be overtraining. Okay, 4 hours. So he's saying that she has free reign, but he finally took her out after 4 hours. So we have to reverse engineer the training that happens off camera to achieve that. What made her stay in that place for 4 hours? I don't know why she had to pace back and forth on that bed. It's a pretty small bed that doesn't take, she takes up more than half that bed. Why did she have to pace back and forth there for 4 hours? That's kind of alarming. A 2-year-old dog or a 2 or 3-year-old dog pacing back and forth for 4 hours in that small space, that cannot be good for preventing hip dysplasia, which is what those orthopedic beds are designed for, which is that they should prevent like arthritis and golden retrievers and Tibetan Mastiffs, Rhodesian Ridgebacks. A lot of dogs have hip dysplasia issues. Give them orthopedic bed. My old dog had an orthopedic bed. She didn't like to use it. So we didn't make her use it. We got her a bunch of other beds, and then she used those ones. And we just got let her use the ones that she liked. Like, what are you gonna do? They're really for prevention. So we should have got her the orthopedic bed to help her attenuate to it at a young age. Like he's gotten her a bed at a young age, so she can get used to it. But you want her to stay on that, but then sprawl out wherever else she wants, right? To help her get as much circulation to the joints and to all her limbs. So after a good day, after 2 hours of activity, especially, you wouldn't want to restrict put like after 2 hours of running, you wouldn't want to put a dog inside a crate, which is like the size of that bed. It's like the size of a crate where a dog can turn around. That's enough space for a dog to be in a crate. You wouldn't want a dog to spend 4 hours in a crate after 2 hours of running. Imagine you did that. Imagine you went 2 hours of working out. Oh, I guess that sucks for Hassan. He has to do that. Like, imagine you work out for 2 hours and then you sit down and you just sit in front of your computer for like 4 hours. Like, I play video games, but I get up and I move and I do all this and I take my dog for a walk. I do all this other stuff. I would never sit down for like 4 hours or like 2 hours and just like stare at my screen after or like in like a little like cube after running for 2 hours. You wouldn't want to do that. So the dog should be able to sprawl out all throughout the room if he wants to keep the dog in the room and do whatever she wants. Get her hair anywhere she wants. The thing about dogs that's so true is dogs like that, their hair gets everywhere. I've had some big dogs and their hair gets everywhere. Every time they move, no matter how much you groom them, no matter how much like you bring them to the groomers, every time they move, just fluff, dander everywhere. So a room like this and all these ornaments and stuff honestly should be covered in dog hair if you have a dog like that living in the room. Okay, so let's go back to his video. What is he saying?
Exception of like stretching or getting up, getting down, drinking water, things like that, is because she likes to lay
And she wasn't allowed to do that for 4 hours, we just saw.
on the ground. When she lays on the ground, that's terrible for her fucking joints. Every single thing that I do with this dog.
Laying on the ground is bad for her joints if she has no other options, right? I lay on the ground for my back because it's comfortable sometimes. I've hurt joints. Sometimes it's comfortable to lay on the hard ground. If I didn't have a comfy bed, that would suck if I had to live on the hard ground. So that's the logical reasoning for an orthopedic bed, is that she has an alternative to the hard ground, not to prevent the dog from sprawling out in certain ways. That's not what you're supposed to do to prevent arthritis or help arthritis.
Is either with a professional dog trainer or with a vet. Professional dog trainer or a vet.
Okay, so appeal to authority, that's a classic logical fallacy. So just appealing to authority. You can't call into question my arguments because they come from an authoritative individual. I got these two, I got vets and trainers. You could be misled by vets and trainers. And as a trainer, the hardest thing to navigate with training is not the dog, most of the time. It's almost always navigating the people, the owners, and the people the owner encounters, and the other people who encounter the dog and help. Because the dog is always being trained every moment of its life. Everything it sees is like changing its behavior. So that's the job I do as a dog trainer, is to help inform the owners of how what they do will change the dog's behavior. Because once I leave, I can't guarantee that they're going to follow up with what I did, or that they're telling me the truth, and that they followed up with my training schedule. So if I give them certain tools like a clicker, clickers, oh, by the way, are audio primers, or if I give them tools like a e-collar, I have to be very careful, because if I'm irresponsible, if I give that tool to the wrong person, they can go willy-nilly. They're either going to ruin the tool so it's ineffective with the dog, right? They're going to overuse the clicker, and then the dog is going to tune out the clicker and be like, I don't care. And then the clicker is useless now, and I can't get the dog to do anything with it. And you can't use audio priming anymore because they didn't follow my instructions. That's too difficult. So then I have to throw that tool out the window and start with new tools, right? Or if you give them something like an e-collar and they use a shock collar without telling you, and they can make this dog severely traumatized. And then I can be like, okay, me as a trainer, I did not outline that. And now this person has created this bigger issue that I have to deal with. So that's the issue, is that even though he's appealing to authority, those two people, those authorities he's entrusted, can't verify that he's following their professional instructions, right? No one can verify that except for him in his heart. He knows the truth.
People don't understand how serious this is to take care of your dog, how important it is to make sure that you have like proper activity, proper socializing.
Yes, proper activity, proper socializing in the dog's early ages, the stage that this dog is at, is the most important thing. There's no better time in its life to be maximizing its socializing. Honestly, it's good that it's learning about its life. Like if it's going to be a on-stream dog, this is its life. Like you want to keep it in that routine so it knows what it's doing. But at this point, it should be like free roaming as much as possible and getting as much like activity and learning about the outside world and other people and other dogs as much as possible. That's true.
And to make sure that your dog gets out, make sure that your dog is actually active, and more importantly, make sure that your dog has a regimented and very structured life, especially when you have a very large dog. I have a very large dog.
It's a
Large
pretty
dogs
large dog.
have a tendency to get hip dysplasia later on in their lives, and they have joint issues. She is a
Yeah, hip
monster.
dysplasia and joint issues, which is why
What's going on, everybody? Of
4 hours,
America. Please just fucking go. Just stop.
that is not, look at her legs like being scrunched up. Like, I think he needs a bigger orthopedic bed, to be honest. Because if his argument is that she needs to be on the bed for her hips,
The
it's
other
just.
reason why it's important that a large dog
And look, is she
is
moving
very
at
properly
all in
trained.
this video?
Large dog
Or is she
can
just like
easily hurt you.
chilling out
If you
there?
accidentally played with someone and nipped
Like,
at
she
someone, that
seems,
would be a massive
it
issue.
seems like
Large
after
dogs
this
are like a
criticism,
chihuahua. They can also hurt themselves as well. That is part of
this
the
my
adaptation
belief is that she's
process.
on trabazone
And
after this
if
criticism,
you
because look
are
at how
taking this
stale she
very
is.
seriously from the start,
And I
then
think his
you are
response has been just
absolutely
to increase her
fucking
trabazone.
perfect. Like
And
the
here's the thing about trabazone. If you are giving your dog trabazone when they're living in a difficult situation, or because you have a situation that schedule that calls for it, some dogs need that. That's part of their life, especially if you're living in a big city. So if he's giving his dog trabazone, that's none of our business. But it's just at this point he's drawn this attention and this scrutiny, and people who just like to speak out for what they see on camera, because he's saying that what we see on camera should be something that we believe. So when we see things that we know aren't true, it's a normal thing as a human to want to call that out. That's just like basic ethics. It's just called being true and authentic, right? Where it's not something deeper than that. We're just enjoying our own personal authenticity here, and like
I'll bracket off
saying like,
the
I know what I saw, I know what I heard. Because yeah, I heard a dog feel a vibration and fear a shock and bark in fear.
criticisms into three different categories. Okay. The number
Okay, so these are the three categories of criticism. Is this going to be really extensive? We cover them all.
one is the broadest majority of people who saw that clip and were like, "Oh my god, this looks terrible. Like this guy is fucking abusive or whatever." Right? Which is hilarious to say about someone like myself, especially considering that I
I
am
get that.
very, very careful and very
I get
good
that.
with Kaya. I spend
I
every
get that.
single
It'd be
day
really
with Kaya.
easy to. for people to see my dog and think, oh my God, that sounded really scary. Oh my God, that dog makes an incredible sound. I can go get him. He can make some, this dog, this hairless dog, will make some crazy sounds that'll like terrify the internet. Should I do that just to invalidate myself? Well, he's in his safe spot right now. He's in his crate, so I can't move him off that crate. He will bark if I try to take him out of his crate because that's his safe spot. He's not allowed. If I go pull him out and he barks, even though like that noise isn't a bad noise, in this case, it would be wrong because I would be overstepping our sort of training and our sort of boundaries. He has like a place that I can't take him out of. That's called his safe space. If he's on my bed, I could pick him up, and how he barks at me when I pick him off of my bed, I wouldn't care because that's my bed. I can pick him off of my bed, even though he hates that I'm moving him from the warmth. And you could say it's a little bit cruel. He's a hairless dog. He needs his warmth. It's a fair protest. Um, yeah, I wouldn't care about that bark because it's my bed, you know. But if he's in his bed, like in his crate, I can't move him. It's his spot.
Moment with her. She is the love of my life. She's the most important thing in my life. Okay. I love her more than I love most human beings. The notion that I would be abusive
So
to her.
he says that, and I just don't believe it because he does not say it with enough conviction, enough gusto, right? He just didn't say it like I think anybody who passionately believes in their dog would say it. He said it in this very monotone, like straightforward way. I trying to really make it sound like it's matter of fact, and I guess that's because he's really well media trained, and this is sort of his monotone, sort of presenting voice. But I just didn't feel the passion behind his voice, and I just don't believe that someone who really does think that their dog is the most important thing in the world and understands what those words mean would say it in that way. Because I don't know. I said that earlier, but I'll say it again. Twinta is the most important thing in the world to me, and I would do anything to make his life better. And I would never honestly say that he's spoiled. I joke about him being spoiled, but like I could give him so much of a better life, even though I already gave him everything. Like it's so true.
Is obviously ridiculous, but it is what it is. Virtually every single person that
Like I
took
still play video
advantage of
games for God's sake. And like sometimes he loves to be on my lap when I play video games. But like I bet like most of the summer he'd rather be like strolling outside. And I'm like, I'm playing some video games, and like I can always find more time to make him happy, even if I walk him for 6 hours a day. It's always more time.
been around us would attest to that for the record. That's number one. So looking at like a 20-second clip over an 8-hour time frame that is negatively framed in a way to make it seem as though like I'm abusive or
So
anything
he
like that.
acknowledged it over the 8 hour. It's an 8 hour time frame.
Like that, it can reach a much larger audience, and as
Mm.
people are oblivious to it, they will get duped by it, and it
This
is
is the
what it
first
is.
group of
Number two,
people.
the
Number
second
two.
type of people that took advantage of this was the regular guys, like the pedo underscroll
Whoa,
trolls.
whoa, whoa.
From what I understand, Ethan himself was in some hot water
Okay, this
for
is
using
political
this
now.
collar, which, by the way, ironically enough, I had used the prong collar in the past for Fish, my previous
Yeah,
dog. So I think he was like using that as well to be like, oh, look, see, Hassan used a prong collar. And it's like, yeah, I don't anymore. And also, it's just, I don't know how that has anything to do with me. Like, your audience is yelling at you over that sort of thing. On top of that, there was like the third category of people who are totally in the periphery. You only go one VOD bag, and Kaya roams the entire VOD amount. I know, but it doesn't matter.
that's not true. So if you see saying you go to October 5th, he's saying you go to October 5th, and he's saying you go to October 5th, and Kaya roams the entire video. That's what he's saying. Okay, let's see if that's true. Let's see if that's true. Let's fact check him. Let's see. Let's go to his videos. Um,
Penises and your
okay,
gocks, they're quivering.
quiet. Literally, first thing I heard him say is penises. What is this? Like, absolute, my family friendly stream is ruined. So, so the day before this video. So he's saying, so this is the video where she yelps. This is the day before. This is the day before she yelps. He's saying if you go to the day before and look at this stream, she roams the entire video. All right? That's what he just said. Let's see. Okay. So he has these two big dogs, these pit bulls. Seems to be a big part of his brand. So we wait. When does he come on stream? So at 8 minutes into the stream, okay, okay, shut up. Oh my God. So she's there. She's staring at the door. She's staring at him in the door. Her tail is out. She's staring at the door. She's staring at him. Look at how she's micro adjusting. Look at how she's micro adjusting. She's staring at the door. She kind of settles. She keeps looking up at him whenever he talks, right? She's aware and she's moving around. Okay, so she's just chilling. 12 minutes in, she's looking at the door, looking at him, biting her groin. Okay, so she goes down, she's biting her groin, still just looking at the door and looking at him. People are all talking about him his chest. Like she's blinking, staring around. Now, if the dog has been primed with shock collar whenever they've been barking, they'll become very silent. So you can vocal breed into completely silent breed, and that's not a good thing. There's a lot of bad trainers in LA who just like solve dog noise issues with electric collars, and it's like there's a lot of dog trainers around the world that do this, and it's not something I would support. It can solve it down the line, and once in a while you're going to create a really bad problem dog that's just, or a person who doesn't apply that training properly, and then that dog is going to become fear motivated and act out in fear, and that's just you should not advocate for those training methods and those easy solutions to dogs, being vocal, because a dog lying in a bed that needs to go outside might whine. And that's how you know it's time for them to go outside, right? So you don't want to teach a dog to suppress their vocality because you want those communication signals as a good owner. You want to be like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, you need to go outside? Oh, you're itchy? Oh, you need me to like clean that part of you? Oh, this part of you is like irritated? Oh, you got a rash. You want to be able to pick up everything your dog communicates to you. So that's why I advocate for never suppressing vocality. Now, if you want to teach your dog, like a hyper dog like I have, to be quieter in certain circumstances, you need to teach them a bark command so they can bark, and then you can teach them a no bark command and they use their bark. So I have my hyper dog understand when to vocalize and when not to vocalize. But it's very important that I can understand that he's telling me all the signals I can hear so that I could possibly know what's going on for him, right? Because if there's something I missed, some medical situation that he had, and I overlooked it because he wasn't vocalizing, I would feel so guilty. Like, I'd be like, oh my God, you did not tell me you had a thorn in your paw because you're being obedient. Like, that's the issue with over obedience, right? Is a dog could have a thorn in their paw and be like, I don't want to tell my owner because I've been taught to like walk so perfectly. And it's like, did you really want that for your dog? Is that like a good thing? Like if your dog's a military dog and they need to perform even with a thorn in their paw, okay, hell yeah, you taught the dog to be a good performer in the environment you brought him out into. But if you're not doing that, if that dog isn't actually performing at those levels, you don't need to teach them to be obedient at that level. So it's important to like teach a dog to do what they want to do. All right, so this dog has been chilling there for 20 minutes. She moves over there. Okay, so she adjusts as she moves over there. Keep this about there. I don't want to have. If you have doesn't have enough if keeps reading her legs. I think we bring it on stream like that. Monkey wants to do that from a young age. They'll suppress that communication signal because it's sort of like true conversation where we will never behave that. The charging around. People's right because they're good. If she's on their bed, also like all this stuff to make it better. Like make the floor like I like let her use perfect. She wrote it's either you can this line that she unconscious this line. It's priming. He's primed like here she had a dog trainer who's like I can guarantee you this number of hours. I'm silly. He's like in a dog trainer. No training because training so really deal with sort of confidence which again issues and behavior down here. Sadly the decision of dogs believe that you can't apply guarantees. So anyone like you might have made And that's cool training for the dog. If you're a dog, they're on the you go further in their and we're gonna get the you know, and they go out and do that. That's a good way to train a dog. Say spot. Now, you say as a service to train a dog, will you use that? We'll say no, that's not cool. I say do that. I say you're a dog for going to do that. Make sure their dog is job. So after that, they're such a good day. So he's saying this is a command he taught her. Oh, look at her. She's gonna sit up. She's staring at the She's staring at the She's going to use the move. I go, okay, go, sit up. She finally sounds good. She's come on, what's going on? Oh, this is a kind of she's gonna she's saying she's up. She's oh, yeah. She's like, know what's going on. If he's a good dog owner and he loves her, he knows what's going on. She's trying to get his attention. He can see in the camera that she's been staring staring at him for 30 minutes. And she's sitting up and looking at the door and looking at him and looking at the door and looking at him. We know what that means. It means she's saying, can I leave this place now? Can my place command on this cramped little bed that she doesn't even barely fit on? She's like, is it time to go? Can I go? Come on, Dad, can I go? It's back at him. Just
Okay.
looks over that. It's just she's staying here. He said she that's why I recommend vibrating separately, like what we call on situations for dogs or dogs, because like, you discuss something on. It's just wait, I need a positive reinformation to make sure it's comfortable if you ever have it. So no, it's not like how you say. That's what he's like, it's interesting. Oh, it's one paw. I mean, you catch it on this. One paw, you look back. So that's just, so we can see this. She steps over the threshold. She gets scared. She goes back because she knows that this is the only way she's allowed to. She's like, I'm just readjusting. I'm just turning around again. But something happens. She's been trained that this is the threshold, that something happens when more than one paw steps off. She goes back and she lies down and she stares at the door. So it's been 40 minutes and she's still staring at the door. This is what he said was her free roaming. He said that this was her free roaming the day before. Okay, so I'm just like taking him at his word. This is what he calls her free roaming the day before. If you go back and you watch the day before stream, oh, what's that? If she was trained with treats to stay on that, her head would be up, she'd be wagging her tail, or she'd be waiting much more expectantly. If she'd be much more, when you do positive reinforcement, you get a much different, much less confused behavior about when it's going to end, because you have much more clearly defined like circumstances about when they get the treat. They're not going to be confused. When you have something they don't understand, like how the negative reinforcement happens, like a shock collar or an e-collar, like even a vibrate collar, where a shock collar has ever been applied, or even just an e-collar that a dog is sensitive to in general. They're scared of it because they don't know where it comes from. It's so confusing to them, and they're like, "What did I do wrong?" And it's like connecting the behavior with the stimuli can be difficult because you need consistency between the stimuli and the behavior to have any good training. So that's why e-collars are really messed up, and you can really screw a dog's sort of psychology by using e-collars at an early age if you don't have a really good reason for it, like a working dog reason. Like that's the only reason for like shepherds and hunting dogs specifically. There's a few other situations, like maybe your dog lives on like a res and you like he free roams, you want him to come back. Like there's a couple situations, but usually for almost all those situations, a whistle would be universally and unequivocally like a superior choice to an e-collar. And I would always question why someone would use anything over like a whistle. Like why would you use an e-collar? Is your dog literally deaf? Like if your dog's deaf, that's a great reason. But then you just want to keep your dog on leash or in touching distance. Like why would you let a deaf dog roam? Like doesn't make sense. So she's just waiting, looking at the door, looking at him. Sometimes when a dog stands up, it's because their bladder is full and they're like, come on, I need to I can't compress my stomach like this anymore. You know, have you ever sat like in a car cramped when your bladder's full and you're like, oh my God, if I could only outstretch my legs, then like I'd have more room for my bladder. But like, cause I'm stuck here in the car, like, you know, you're like that, or you're like this, and you're like, oh God. Like as a tall person, I kind of like experience this. It's like on trips and family road trips, like, oh God, you know, if only I could get out of this car, I'd feel so much better. But I ain't. Dad told me to stay, so I'm listening, right? And I can't get out of this car, so I'm listening. So she's listening. She lies down again. Now, I don't want to speculate too hard, but it's possible he has different voltages or different vibration functions on his Elgato deck, and he's been hitting that together to do certain commands. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think he's been shocking her, giving her any commands. So she's still in the room for an hour. So he picks his teeth. I want to see Trump. Well, ew, I don't want to see him pick his teeth. I suggest everyone read a book. It's called Bark! Exclamation point by Zazie Todd. Bark! Exclamation point by Zazie Todd. It's perfect explanation of dog psychology, 2025 research. Nothing like it that you can do in terms of reading to inform yourself on how to take care of a dog, especially reactive and special dogs. Um, when a dog's panting, that can be a clear sign of anxiety. They're trying to self-soothe. It's one of their last physical responses to sort of self-soothe. You might even remember that, like, you know, sort of when you're super anxious, like she's starting to pant. She's been trying to get a she's because it's been an hour. She's been trying to send a message to this guy, her owner, through body language because she can't vocalize because she's that's been suppressed. She's like, "Can I go? Can I tell you that I need to go?" Oh, she steps off and she steps back. What is this behavior? Steps off and she steps back. She's been primed on that threshold. So that's the stay command. She's been primed on that threshold with some sort of negative reinforcement happens when she gets two legs off. So I'm certain at this point with her behavior and how he's doing this that he's been taught by a trainer that look, you have your controls over here, and you teach her to never get off the bed. You do your things. You're watching YouTube. You're hanging out on your computer when you come home from work. You take her back from the park and the gym, and then whenever she tries to leave her crate or her place, you just go boop, and she goes back, right? And no one can see because it's the same place your hand is always for the Zins and for the Elgato deck, but she doesn't leave frame. You don't have to deal with any drama. Her vocality's already been suppressed. You keep her on the schedule for her bladder, so she's fine. And it's never going to cut into your bottom line. You can stream with her on stream, right? That's what he was taught. And this is the result. She's waiting to go out, waiting to go out. Now, he said that this is her free roaming. This does not look like a dog free roaming to me. This is like an hour so far of a dog asking permission to break its place command. Oh, what's this? She's panting and she licks. She's panting. She's panting. She's either too hot in this room or she's anxious. Her bladder might be full or she's just anxious. This spot has not been a comforting spot for her for some reason, or she's just not comfortable there right now. Look at how her legs keep kicking up against this thing and she keeps her paws tucked and off the threshold. Like that's not comfortable. So this is once again why I said like having the incentives and then counter conflict of interest with the well-being of your dog, because you might be like, yeah, the dog being on the bed is for its best interest, but then you train it aggressively for obedience with a vibration collar, with an e-collar, and then this is the result. Now instead of helping her hip dysplasia on her bed, she's scrunching up her paws and not comfy on the bed, and she's panting. She's still panting. And look, she won't keep her paws over the line. Oh, look at her. Uncomfortable dog. She's scratching, she's fidgeting, she's looking at him indignantly, trying to raise up and be like, can you see me? Come on, pay attention. She's adjusting. She's trying to be such a good girl. That's annoying for hand. Oh my God, Kaya's smart. She's already put two and two together. He's been training her for a while, but the thing is, she's staring at him and she's learning. So she's learned that when he raises his, I guess this is his right hand or his left hand. This would be my right, so his left. His left hand, when he reaches his, yeah, because this one's on, his other hand is on his right hand's on the mouse. When he reaches his left hand, she might have a bolt for freedom because he has to put his hand back down to get her to go back down on it. So she's already figured this out. She gets excited to try to bolt for freedom, like she has an opportunity maybe. She's thinking about it. He raises her hand. Oh my God, look. He's like, oh my God, wait. Thinking about it, thinking about it. You can see the gears turning. No, I missed my chance. Missed my chance. But look, she's watching she's watching him. She's like, when can I go? When can I go? Panting, panting. Oh, she raises hand. She's thinking about it. She's thinking. She's thinking. She's really. Sorry. I'm just like reacting to what's this? What's this? Oh, look. She finally.
We will charge them every single case. You have impeding law enforcement, you have seditious conspiracy, and go after them. We have now declared of the Republican Central Premises. All this fuck shit is said. I thought Truman was a conservative podcast. No, man, what are you talking about? No, it's a fucking what? Yeah, it's conservative because Mao's, as he likes to say, podcast out there. We joke about how like was given Donald Trump has now started. Trump posted to stable place that will ire of conservatives.
Were made.
Oh, you should be grateful. Am I not inspirational? Am I not inspirational by the simple virtue of existing? Incredible stuff.
Great job, also.
This is not what news and
So what's going on here? Look, she breaks her. Look at this. What's going on here?
Song that's like about Charlie XCX or something. This is the new meta.
So this is the day before the shock. This is the day before October 7th.
The Taylor Swift edit.
Oh, look at that. She steps up, one paw. She's like, oh, what's going on? He puts his, but she was doing it when his hand was up. Look, he takes his hand off of the control. So this is his hand on the mouse. He took his hand off of the control. This is his hand on the control. His hand off the control. She's like, oh, my opportunity. She's thinking about it.
Swift song that's like about Charlie XCX or something. This is the new meta. They're doing they did a Taylor Swift.
She gets up.
Acting as though they're besties, but
Look at that. Look at how she lurches.
Newsom is saying like
And then look, he keeps thinking like, why is she not going back? Why is she not going back?
talking shit. Trump talking big shit.
And look at that. He mutes it when he tells her to go lie down.
They're doing they did a Taylor Swift edit.
So look, she's like, come on. She's like, oh, she's like, come on.
As though they're besties, but
She's like, oh, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Can I lean into this? Like, I want to go.
Newsom is saying like
I want to go. I want to go.
like Trump is talking shit. Trump talking big shit.
And then he mutes it. So he mutes his mic. And he says, go lie down, Kaya. And she lies down, she lies down. I know my dog when I would tell her, like, oh my God, I'm trying to finish this game. Like, can you wait one more second? And she'd go, oh. So he mutes it so we don't hear her do her little, like, protest. But he mutes it, tells her to lie down. And how long has this been? This is an hour into the stream, and he's telling her place. And he said that she had free roam last stream. He said the stream before she had free roam. Okay, so how long until she can go?
Will try to push Trump's attempt to a day earlier. The National Guard into Portland saying she was troubled by the Trump administration's attempt to circumvent an order she'd issued just a day earlier. Trump had already into
What's this? He tells her not to leave the room? What's this? This is the day before, and he tells her not to leave the room? So he leaves to go take a washroom break. It's been an hour. His dog hasn't gotten a water, treat, pet, or bathroom break. So go piss girl, go piss king, go piss girl, go piss girl. Well, yeah, what about her, right? Like, where's the treat? Where's the reward for the hour-long stay? She just told her, after he went back, muted, told her to lie down, he should have gone back and rewarded her for doing what he said. But instead he leaves, and she's staying in her place like a good girl, sitting up, being like, I needed to go pee too. Like, what are you talking about? And he just left. So he said that she was free roaming last stream. That doesn't seem true to me. So is he going to let her out as soon as she gets back? So what happens? She's waiting, she's waiting, she's waiting. She says, he tells her down. She's looking up at him. When is he going to let her out? So this is her free roaming, apparently. When is he going to get the dog trainer to take her out? Why doesn't he just let her out of the room? Why did he treat his dog like this? Sorry, but that was really gross. Like, he just left the room. His dog's been so good for an hour.
Hold on here. Okay. I have to do a Zoom call for this panel. Okay. Producer over.
Okay. Mute. But it's been an hour and 15 minutes. She's still staring at the door. Okay, so he lets her out an hour and 20 minutes into the stream. He lets her out. When does she come back? So she does an hour and a half on stream. That was her free roaming. This is her free roaming, apparently. And then is she going to come back and stay in place? So he kicks her out after that for the rest of the stream. So that was her free roaming. He kept her for an hour and a half, told her no, and then finally allowed her to break the command. I don't know if an hour-long place command is warranted or cool or good training for a non military / hunting dog. Like, my dog will stay in its crate in its safe spot, which is its crate, where it voluntarily chooses to stay there for a long time, hours on end. That's that dog's decision. It's a hairless dog. It wants to create warmth and stay in it. That's so cool. It's like a lazy, cool guy. Like, Chihuahuas do the same thing. All dogs like to create their own warmth and stay in it. But like, that should be voluntary, not like facilitated or obligated to their owner. So an hour long and then being left off is what he claims to be free roaming. I don't know. You decide if that was free roaming or not. That's up to you. I don't think that was free roaming. I would say that was an hour long place command and then kicking the dog off stream after you lost your temper with her not staying in one spot.
Right? Because if you are in here for an extended period of time, you already know this. You already know that Kaya gets to run the show, do whatever the fuck she wants. But
She gets to run the show, do whatever the fuck she wants. In the last, we just look back and she was being told to stay in one spot, no, when she was, and then lie down. Like she wasn't allowed to leave her spot. She wasn't allowed to cross the room until you kicked her out, and then you didn't have her in the room for the rest of the stream.
the problem here is that the narrative is not being guided by people who are interested in having a reasonable opinion on this. Crazy to me that you have given.
I am interested in having a reasonable opinion on this. Like a dog is better in a house than on the streets. I'm not saying Kaya should be like put on the streets. I'm just saying that like someone with his ability should have a bigger bed for their dog in this room. Like, get rid of all that junk and just make it a big bed for your dog and let her lie around wherever she wants. Like, that's what you should definitely do. And I think that's what everyone told him to do. And he doesn't want to say that, like, if he's now doing that, that it's because of the criticism, because then he has to admit to culpability, to admit fault. And that's, I think, the issue is that there's no way to admit fault for him because that will sort of take his position down a peg. And his position, he has to stay in authority. So he can't admit fault for anything because any amount of authority lost for him is an authority that will affect his credibility for all his other political things. So I think that's his issue. He's talked between a rock and a hard place. He can't really be his authentic self or admit to authentic wrongdoings because if he did, it'll underline his bottom line. So I don't know. I guess that's his issue.
You have to give attention to this matter. All your viewers should know better. No, it's okay. It's understandable, especially because this is like a big deal. The clips don't show her trying to lay on the hardwood floor. She just stepped off her pad. Please explain. No, that's what I'm saying. She steps off the pad to go lay on the hardwood floor. That's why.
But laying on the hardwood floor shouldn't be a problem, especially because I don't think she has enough room to stay on this. And I want you guys to all notice, after all this time we observed in that previous stream, how much movement we had,
I give her the
how much movement does she have now? I don't think this is because she's sleeping, okay? I don't think she's just sleeping after running for 2 hours. I think she's been given something to assist her in relaxing. I think she's specifically been given Trabzone so that she can just doze off on stream and not be a problem.
place command is done for multiple different reasons, but for the most part, the reason why, if you've ever trained a dog professionally or anything like that, you know that the place command is given. Oftentimes, if your dog is like getting excited or barking or things of that nature, it's supposed to like ground them and calm them down because you're giving them a command. Dogs respond to order and a rigid, structured regimen. In any
Yes.
case, I don't know the exact reason as to why she yelped. She has done so in the past.
Yes. So a dog's regiment should be built around, of course, your lifestyle, but also their specific breed's needs. So when you get a dog, it really is a lifestyle choice, right? And you shouldn't be forcing your dog into your lifestyle. You should really build both your lifestyles around each other. That's what's so amazing about a dog, is that they create this sort of like synergy in your existence that no other creature or pet or companion can create. You will both better each other by listening to each other's needs, you know and your dog will trust you for having rationality and knowing what's better for it, and you will trust your dog for having higher senses and being aware of things that you couldn't even hear. So like it's good. Dogs are really important. You want to listen to them. uh, and I don't think that you're really listening to your dog when you have all these other motives for having the dog behave a certain way. So when you have a motive for your dog to stay on camera, that can really mess up your dog's place training. So the counter motivation between the quality of your dog's place training and having your dog appear on screen, I think has created an issue where your dog's behavior is kind of like you might have done your dog a disservice there, and you might have to fix the issues that you've made. You might have sensitized your dog to the vibration collar. You may have created a confusion around the place command that it's more stressing out than relaxing. And these are things that can be remedied over time. So, Kaya can still have a better and better, increasingly better and better quality of life, just like any dog should have. So I think that he's probably going to be listening to the criticism, medicating his dog more, and not being caught like that ever again, because now the dog will have the best possible recommended procedure. It will be allowed to roam, as he says. The free roaming is now on the menu all the time. So the concept of like from the cot to the PC, Kaya will be free. I think that has been won. I think that has been given, but we can establish that from the last stream we just reviewed, that was not a given in the last stream at all.
Well, I suspected it was because she like either tripped or she got her dew claw, like the higher thumb looking claw clipped on the side. There's a lot of people that immediately were like, "Oh, this is what's going on." I see.
Her dew claw clipped on the side. If my dog dew claw clipped on the side, I would go check in on it, make sure the dew claw didn't tear off. If I heard my dog yelp, I didn't know why, I would jump up and do a examination, try to find the abrasion, the place where they were discomfort, because if they have an abrasion or something I didn't know about, I want to know about that as soon as possible so I can treat it. If they caught their dew claw that could have created an abrasion, I want to treat that as soon as possible. So, okay, that doesn't track. The only reason he would have called the dog a baby and not responded when she yelped is because she wasn't following his command, which he wanted her to stay there, which we can clearly see from her prime behavior in that last video we just reviewed, the October 5th, the day before October 6th when he zapped her. He wanted her to stay in place for over an hour, and then he finally let her go.
I see exactly what happened. He fucking.
We know that he's primed her with that command. We can easily understand that. Like he's even admitting it that the place command is something that he's primed her for. So
secretly fucking like pressing a button that he has on his desk or something like that.
so that's the truth. He's that's the truth. He's pressing a button on the desk. That's without a doubt.
I have multiple collars. I'm going to address the collar thing in a second as well. I have multiple collars for Kaya, and I put an air tag on them. I put an air tag on all of her collars to make sure that I know where she's at. And one of the collars that people are pointing to from previous days or from like months ago is the collar that is a vibration collar, a collar that I use specifically to communicate with Kaya when she's free roaming at the park or when she is, off leash running around. When you leave your dog to free roam, to go out on the trail or whatever, there are going to be instances where you can yell for her to come back to do recall, but because she's so far away that she can't hear you.
So if you're out on trail in the mountains, that's true. Like if your dog's like a herding dog and it goes chasing some deer in Appalachia or in the boreal forest in Canada, right? Or like, okay, your dog's running off in the forest, is gonna herd some deer back towards you, and oh, they didn't come back after like 20 minutes. I want to like call them back. I've heard of people, and I know people, and I've helped people with dogs that yeah, you can press a button and they come back from the bush dogs, or you have acres of land in Wales or in New Zealand, and you have dogs that go off and herd the sheep, or they go off down to the beach, and you have neighbors of acreages, and their dogs just hang out and they all live and love each other. But then sometimes you need your dog to come home. Maybe that would be a button you push. But in almost all those circumstances, wouldn't it be a whistle? Wouldn't you be going like blowing a whistle to get your dog to come back? Because dogs have 20 times better hearing than humans and a higher, frequency range and a lower frequency range. So I don't know. There's really not a circumstance where your dog won't hear you and won't obey. Maybe they're ignoring you because they want to, there's something more interesting to them, like some salmon to eat or some dead like meat, some garbage, or they're really having fun playing with another dog, or they're chasing a prey. Those could be reasons why they don't want to come back at distance. Um, so that can be an obedience, like not issue, but it's something to do with their obedience and their training. That wouldn't be a great circumstance in like a public park for like a dog to use an e-collar, because like what if your dog freaks out? What if your dog is sensitized to the e-collar and you zap them, and then there's like, where did I get zapped, or where did I get like vibrated, and then it latches out at another dog. So I'm pretty sure vibration and e-collars are banned at most off-leash dog parks. I can fact check this. I don't know, but I'll double check this in Canada. I know they're banned in Quebec in Canada. But I wouldn't, I'd be very concerned if anyone had an e-collar at an off-leash park with their dog. I would be like getting my dog out of there because I wouldn't trust the predictability of that dog's training with the e-collar. You know, like if someone has that in their private land when, or like they're going off in the woods where there aren't likely to be other dogs and they want to recall their dog that runs off in the bush, I understand that. I don't believe that this guy has a dog in LA that's going, I don't know where in LA, what mountains in LA you go where your dog won't be able to hear you, you need to recall them and you have some sort of connection with a signal. That doesn't make any sense.
That's where the vibration collar comes in. It vibrates. Doesn't actually.
Finding your perfect home is
So
only
he's
the
saying it
beginning.
it vibrates and doesn't hurt her,
Contract
and then
with
she comes back. So yeah, that is a usage in certain circumstances. If that's the only usage of the e-collar, that could be good. But if that e-collar was also used for the place command, we have major issues there. Major issues. I don't think that's controversial to say as a dog behaviorist, like or a dog trainer. You can just like look it up. Read Bark exclamation point by Zazie Todd. It's not a good idea to mix negative reinforcement with place
There
commands.
are the no bark collars that I believe both vibrate and also emit like a large sound. There are shock collars as well. They all look very similar to one another. But the vibration collar is what they were
So the e
to
collar,
be like, oh my God, he has a collar that he's using to abuse her and shocking her. This is by far your stupidest controversy yet. I know, but
it's a
it's
very
so
stupid
crazy.
controversy because it's
What
just
the
so
thing is,
obvious.
it's kind of crazy that one of the 1,000 times you yelled place on stream, the yelping only happened once. I know. It's such a common thing that,
Because he's muted it whenever else.
dude, none of these
As we
guys
saw
are fucking
before, when he
retarded.
commanded her before, he waited for a chance where he could play a video and then he muted it. So that's how streamer stuff works. Like,
To train their dogs, they know nothing. Yeah. Shock collars are not bad for dogs if used correctly. Any dog trainer will have you put the shock.
so that's what I was talking about. Yeah, like maybe you live on the res and your dog free roams in the forest, and then you're like, it comes to dark and you don't want them to get eaten by coyotes or fighting with the raccoons. So you press a button, your dog comes jumping through your window and is like, I'm home, it's time for bedtime. Like, that's a great way to use a shock collar.
Collar on your arm and feel it. Yes, I have. I have done that. If you've ever used a Thames machine, it feels like
But like, I'm not saying that's a great way. I'm saying like there's conceivable ways and there's like,
doesn't even
circumstances
matter.
where a dog could use a
I
shock
don't
collar.
have that
But
anyway. I
and he
think
said, but he's saying, yeah, it doesn't matter because he doesn't use that anyway. It's just a vibration collar, which is only for her recall out in the park. He's saying it's a vibration collar. It wasn't activated to make her lie down, and it's only for her to recall. Has nothing to do with this situation.
for the caller and bark for chat would make everybody happy. I think the worst aspect of it was that I was frustrated because the internet had cut out and I didn't immediately like rush.
He was frustrated with his dog in the other video, so I think he was frustrated with his dog.
I went to her afterwards.
And this is something you encounter a lot. And I said it earlier, but the hardest part about working as a professional dog trainer is not the dogs that I encounter. It is working with people and navigating the social aspect of it because people get frustrated with their dogs and then people escalate training techniques or misapply um, reinforcement techniques that I've taught them because they act out of emotion or out of other motivations or other feelings. And I need to teach people to be sort of stoic and austere and self-aware to not influence their dog and not to curve their training in a way that is about their emotionality or or how other people perceive them. And this is the issue with having your dog on stream is you're motivated by how other people perceive you because you have to do what's right for your dog, regardless of what other people see. Sometimes you have to drag your dog away from a circumstance and it looks really bad, but it's what you have to do. You can't worry about what other people are seeing and be like, oh, hi, doggy, doggy. Like you have to do what's right for your dog. So that's the hardest thing to navigate in training and teaching people to train their dogs. And it's very clear that in that stream that we just reviewed, October 5th, before this happened, he was clearly frustrated with her wanting to break her place command clearly. And the other time when he zapped her, he was clearly frustrated with her wanting to break her place command the second day in a row. He wanted to see improvement and he saw regression. And that was frustrating to him because he wants her to be on camera. I understand that. I've worked with people who see regression in their dog training. I can clearly recognize someone who's embarrassed and not taking accountability for their frustration with their dog's regression in their training because he shouldn't be training that dog in that direction of obedience in the first place. That's my stance, is that Kaya should not be being taught to do hour-long, multi-hour place commands on that cot. That's not okay for her hip for preventing hip dysplasia. That's not okay for preventing arthritis. That is just bad practice, period.
She was all right, but she was, of course, and that's it.
And I'm happy to call into question the expertise or the efficacy of the dog training that he's facilitated or the vet advice that he's solicited. Both those things could be inadequate, false, or he could have misunderstood or misapplied that knowledge. That's all possible.
Do take accountability for that. I should have immediately went over when I saw her yelping, and that's
Yep.
it. But
That's
that's
the only
unlike
so that's the only way that he's able to admit fault, right? Because admitting fault for him is really tough because he represents all his other stuff. And I understand that. So I don't blame him for that. That's tough. Maybe in his heart of heart he knows the truth and he just understands that it cuts into his bottom line and he can't really like he has to save face in a certain sense. And it doesn't matter because it's unprovable because no one can prove certain things. So it's like, okay, plausible deniability is his best friend in this case. But
abusive dog parent is completely fucking ridiculous. Is this what you have to deal with on a regular? Dumb controversies and desperate attempts to discredit you? Yes.
Is that her just no leash walking?
Look at this.
so I've had a dog that off leash walks no collar in an
Oh
urban
my
setting.
God.
You can teach a dog to off leash.
Oh,
Bro, when you have this.
So 10 years ago, he was contemplating, 10 years before this clip, we saw that clip earlier where he was contemplating the efficacy of shock collars. He said, I heard they've been really effective, right? And then 10 years later, we see this social media post.
In your life, when you have a rigid structure in your life, when you work hard, you can achieve anything. Okay.
So when you work hard, you can achieve anything. That's true. Achieving that without a shock collar, without an e-collar, I think is difficult, but it's achievable for any hardworking individual. Achieving that with an e-collar is stupidly easy, but it's going to quickly be something that you can mess up if you misapply that technique. And I think we just, simply caught him misapplying the e-collar.
what the fuck?
Yeah, that's a normal.
Buddy would never do that. If Kevin was here, he would have ran right in front of that van and got hit and died.
Buddy would have.
What's he have his thumb on here?
Would have ran right in
What's
front
he
of
have
that
his
van.
thumb on here? What's he do? Let's go back in this clip.
What the fuck?
What is he doing with his hand here?
Buddy would
His
never do
hands,
that. If Kevin was
his
here,
hands on something the whole time on his fob. And he looks at her, and he's keeping his thumb on a fob. What is he keeping his thumb on? And she's looking up, paying attention. Dogs are smart. They're always paying attention. She knows that there's something. He's high, and he's been taught by his dog trainer to keep that fob hidden from her so she doesn't know when he's using the fob because the fob activates the e-collar. So he's hiding the fob from her, but she's aware of when the fob's being hidden. And she's looking up at him, and she sees the fob. And look, he's keeping his thumb on that fob. Why is he doing that? Who walks like this with their hands on their keys? Do you know any like guys who do that? Like he's walking his dog, so he's keeping his thumb on the e-collar. So he's saying, oh, it's because you didn't teach, buddy. But look, he's keeping his thumb. Says Kaya, let's walk. And look, he's waiting to press it. He's waiting to press it. Look. Kaya, let's walk. And if she didn't, he was gonna press it.
You know what?
Can you just show the collar, shut everyone up?
So that was an example of her training that he was keeping his hand on the fob in case he had to press it. So that's an example of how the e-collar is being used to achieve recall. That is a cool command. If that's all he's using the e-collar for, he's having it on his key fob, and he's like, okay, when she recalls, I don't have to press it. And then if she doesn't recall when I say, Kaya, come, then he reminds her, because I guess she couldn't hear me. But that's not your dog not hearing you. You should just say, Kaya, come again. Repeat yourself one more time, and she'll come.
If he did. Yeah, man, you explain things well and shit, but show the collar though, dude. Okay. is one of Kaya's many collars. Come here.
Okay, so now he's going to show the e-collar.
This is the one that people are talking
So it's an
about.
e-collar.
This is the one. This is the one that they saw. It has the capacity to vibrate, and that's it. Are you happy? That's it. There's the air tag. There's the fucking vibrator. It also has a flash.
So then he puts it away, doesn't show us it, right? So let's just look at that again. People are saying that there's tape over it and that this is the version that is the shocking version. He has had the shock prongs on it before, or that this version does have the capacity to shock. So some people are saying that, right? I think that does look like there's tape over it. This is not someone else's Photoshop. This is just the contrast levels. Anyone can do that themselves. You can verify it yourself. If you don't believe it, you don't have to take someone saying this is a Photoshop. You can just go do the contrast levels. I'm not going to do that.
Light component to it at nighttime, and it also has a tracker on it when she gets lost. If she were to actually get fucking lost, it emits a sound. Fire! Place.
So he's just using her as an extension of his authority. He's using the dog as a symbol and as a social media tool to talk about how, oh, look, I have the biggest dog. He literally looked up the biggest dog, Tibetan Mastiff, said, okay, I'm getting the biggest dog and I'm going to have her. And if I have the biggest dog is my bitch, excuse my language, the biggest dog is my like servant, then I'm going to look like authoritarian and I'm going to look authoritative and I'm going to look trustworthy. So it helps for an authoritative, trustworthy persona to have a Tibetan Mastiff obey you. Achieving that is a lifestyle. Achieving that is a full on lifestyle if you're not just resorting to easy out training methods. Honestly, I just really doubt that we're going to see the success of this sort of dog in her long-term life with Hasan. I can easily predict that this dog is going to have a better life, but she's going to progress probably out of these streams, or she's going to continue to be medicated on stream because he wants her to look good on stream. But a dog of 2 or 3 should not be this lethargic, should not be this sedated, and should be much more full of energy throughout the day, even if she's had a 2-hour run in the morning. Like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old dog is full of energy.
There are days where Kaya doesn't wear a collar. There are days where she wears a different collar.
Okay, if anyone can find days when she's not wearing a collar, that would be really helpful. Because that's I don't know if there's ever days on stream where she's not wearing a collar. That would be interesting.
Itself doesn't actually work in the way that you think it does. Here, this is the.
Okay, so he's confirming we have an e-collar, what we call an electrical collar. So it's some form of e-collar. He's holding it in a very specific way, right? He's trying to show us what he has there. He's holding it like this, right? So why is he holding it like this? Why isn't he holding it like by the straps? Like if I was wanting to show something, I would hold it by the straps and I would just be like, here's the whole thing, right? Like I wouldn't be like, hey guys, can you see my shirt? Can you see my shirt, right? You see it? I would be like, oh, guys, here it is, right? Here's the whole thing, right? You see it? This is it. I wouldn't be like, guys, you see it? You see it?
This is when it vibrates.
And I know that's like XQC to that demonstration with the controller. I did already see that reaction. So I really think that there's a conflict of interest, that Kai is being used as a prop. I will continue to review and debunk any further sort of claims that her behavior and her treatment after October 7th hasn't been adjusted, because there has been an adjustment to her routine and her treatment on stream after October 7th. That's verifiably empirically. We just went back and we looked back on what he called free roaming the day before on October 5th. And that was an hour of her staying in one place and him commanding her to stay in one place on camera until he let her go off stream for the rest of the stream. That was her routine before, and then this happened, and now her routine has changed. She's now being let out of the room much more freely.
Place.
That's normal. I used to tell my dog, yeah, that was the go lie down, and for my new dog, that's the crate command. But place should be and crate or play should be for their safe spot. So if it's for an obedience pad, which is what this is being used for, not her safe spot where she's like she can't be told to get off it and she's super comfy and she goes there only of her own volition. So she's being told to go there sometimes without her own volition. You can still do that with their safe spot, but you would never use negative reinforcement. So I don't know. I do think that he's messed up the place command and confused it. And just the simple aspect of having a conflict of interest, the simple aspect of having a conflict of interest with your place command, like having her on camera generate revenue and donos, can be enough to mess up the training because that can create a conflict of interest in the motivation and your behavior. And if your behavior is consistent, then her, quality of training won't be consistent. So we can see how that's happened here, how her quality of training has been impacted by the motivation of the place command.
About it. It's okay. It makes sense why people will be like, "Oh my God, this person is being abusive." If they only saw that clip, it doesn't matter, and this will not go away. For the record, I'm sure that the
Mm,
people that are
It could have gone away if he just
the real
admitted
deal
to what
will
happened, but
continuously and expertly scrutinize every minutia to say, "Oh no, you don't understand. This is a situation where he's trying to get out of it or anything like that." Will all those that slandered you apologize now? No, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't. No, because they've been targeting you before this, and they will continue to do so in the future. Exactly, and they will
okay. So I've never heard of this. I just don't know. Like, I don't care about attacking streamers. I just care about dogs. It's my only thing I care about. So it's fun to come in and just use this as an excuse to use,
like
editing and
believe it. I don't
turn my mic on, turn the
fully
camera on.
consider
I'm just
that.
having
The
fun.
greatest counter to this would be the 7 million hours of me hanging out with Kaya. Like
No, no, that doesn't refute anything. Having all that doesn't refute anything. No one has to believe that that represents the truth of Kaya's life. Like, I'm not telling anyone to believe that my dog lives the way that I portray on social media. He does. My little hairless dog gets to live the best life in the world. Even though he's hairless, I protect him and take him camping, take him all over the world. I don't just have a little hairless dog that I keep inside an apartment. I make sure that he goes out in the rain, he goes out and is healthy, and he just like has a fun time, even though he's vulnerable. So like I don't take any excuses for a quality of life for a dog. Like you don't have to believe me. And then some people might even object, be like, no, you should never let your hairless dog have an opportunity where it could get scraped. And I was like, no, I want him to live his life and be happy and explore and live the best life. So like, I'm ready to take the haters who want to criticize the way I would take care of my hairless dog and say, no, you should keep him indoors more. Like I'll take them any day. Like I'll have my opinion on how quality of life for dogs stands, and I will have a controversial opinion on that even, and I will defend it because I know what I'm doing, and I will also take criticism when I've had to change my training methods. I've had to adjust and change training methods with my current dog because I noticed at the age of what Kaya was that some of the choices I made or some of the choices I didn't make were necessary. Like I got stairs for his bed so that, or my bed rather, so that he could have a better access to it without having to jump on and off. And I did de-incentivize him jumping on and off. I would stop, giving him treats for his place command when he would jump off the bed, only when he walked off on the stairs. And that's how I use positive reinforcement to teach him to only use the stairs and not jump on and off, right? I use that with positive reinforcement through positive extinction. So, of course, there's some leniency there. I let him jump on and off the bed a little bit sometimes because, like, what am I going to do? Like, reprimand him so he's scared to jump on and off the bed? No. It's like, I'll let him make that a little bit of damage on his joints because that's life. And the rest will be mitigated by the access to the stairs and his preference to not hurting his own body. I don't need to be like, don't jump off the bed. Like he can figure it out. Like I can remind him sometimes, hey, don't jump off the bed. But I don't need to like create a situation where like it's something like stresses him out and it's like an obedience threshold that he's like hyper aware of.
she's been on stream for 10,000 fucking hours at this point. She's grown up on this stream. She's been outside on stream. Why can't you just grab the collar and show us? I just did. Genuine ask, aren't Tibetan Mastiffs advised to give large open space to roam around in, though, apart
So that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing is that she should have free roam. We just reviewed an hour where she was told to stay on this little cot, and that's not good for her. So like he has definitely changed that. Like people have honed in on this aspect, and now Kaya will be getting in and out of the room much more freely. And I think she will notice that and she'll take advantage of that and kind of kick herself out of the stream more. And he'll just like make sure that's really obvious. So we're not going to see any slacking on the hired dog trainers anymore. He's going to hire a lot more dog trainers to keep her out and active, and much more shorter, infrequent times on stream, like 45-minute periods is what we'll see rather than an hour at a time.
From everything else, you ever sitting for hours on end in one spot, is that okay for her? Yes. Everything that I do.
No, no, it's not. No, no, it's not. Having her sit for hours on end on that cot, that specific one, no.
Is from professional trainers.
That last thing I reviewed, that was not good.
I'm very on.
And he can deflect and defer to authority as and say, oh, appeal to authority. The vets and the trainers were the authorities. We can also assume that the information he got from them, he might not have used or applied that knowledge well or accurately, and that could create the situation we're in. So like the appeal to authority doesn't matter. Just because that is true doesn't mean he didn't, make a mistake.
In terms of like reinforcing the training, because if you actually train your dog, or you take your dog to a trainer and then refuse to reinforce that behavior, you
Come.
allow your dog to slowly but surely expand the permission structure, and dogs need good guidance at every given moment. A lot of people who are like talking shit right now are completely oblivious to that.
Come.
They're never taking care of a pet. They're never actually taking care
Trying
of
to get him to come out of his bed.
breathing organic thing, whether it be a fucking hamster or a dog or
Sometimes
anything else.
he disobeys. He's in his bed. What can I do?
Overprotective, maybe.
Tunta, please come.
Very overprotective. I am perhaps a little bit too type A of a dog parent. If anything, I'm a little too hyper.
He's comfy. He doesn't want to go.
Critical. But the reason why I do that is.
What am I gonna do? Go pull him out of his bed? Nah.
I don't want to fuck up. Large dog. What were you reaching?
Well, he did. He messed up.
What do you think?
What did he reach for? It's an ad. It's an ad for Zins. Okay, so this was that a joke, or is that actually what he's saying? He was saying like, I'm not on the Elgato deck, his stream control deck. He was reaching for Zins, because we all know that he's using the stream control deck with his left hand. I guess that was a joke, reaching for the Zins. I don't know if he really meant that. All right, so what else can I react to? We already saw her lying like that from the other day's stream. So from the last two streams, she's just not been doing that. This is a thread. Do I need to react to anything here? What's he say here?
Literal fucking slave. And not just like a slave, but you have a literal fucking slave that you shackle, okay? Every fucking day. Pull from their neck and take him wherever the fuck you want to take him to. And on top of that, you fucking neuter your slave. So your slave can't have more slaves. And you have the slave for just personal consumption, so like making yourself feel better.
That's his opinion on dogs, I guess. That's not what I think about dogs.
I'm gonna get
The hardest thing is to get started.
What's this?
Kaya?
Oh my god.
No.
I made a friend.
What is this? All right, don't. This is bad parenting.
I don't know. She just likes other people. Yeah. Okay, so this is the counter argument. All right. So now let's see. This is that was his whole argument, right? We saw his opinion. We saw him cutting things up the way he likes to cut his own argument up in his articulation. I responded to all that. Now let's see the counter narrative to Hasan. Online, everyone was showing off their puppy. It all looks cute and innocent, right? But then there's a dark side. Like, have you ever seen some of those videos where dogs perform a certain way and it's all goofy? But then later you think, how did they get the dogs to perform that? Like maybe the motivation training to get the dogs to perform this way isn't really good, or maybe that like funny circumstance was like set up and that's actually dangerous for the dog. So this is the issue with social media, right? You don't want to just put your dog in dangerous circumstances to get photo ops. I don't want to hike with my dog just to get a picture with him on top of the mountain. Like I gotta hike his hike. He can't finish the hike, or he doesn't want to do this hike, or it's not the right terrain for him. I'm not gonna force him up the mountain or force him somewhere to get a photo, put him close to like some running river that's like dangerous, so I can get like a good photo. Like That doesn't make sense, right? You want to have fun with your dog, and then you can capture some candid moments and stuff. And sometimes you create a scene if it's all cool, but like you don't want to tread on that unethical line, right? I've never seen Spill Killers before. I don't know what this channel is. And then I gotta go plug in my laptop, so I gotta end the stream. Okay, so he got her a couple years ago. Yeah.
Okay? It's the same reason as to why America, Kaya, please just fucking go, just stop. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? You're being.
You know, he admitted to using an e-collar, so, but not in that circumstance. He's saying that in that circumstance, he was
Some
not
owner may want to use a
doing
debunk
anything with his hand.
for fish and his dogs. For fish and his dogs,
So I'm not seeing any editing of this
I
clip.
couldn't do it. I have it still.
Seems like the full clip. I think he showed earlier that people were like cutting up this clip. I didn't see anyone cut up this
They
clip.
are incredibly
This
effective.
seems to be a full clip, right?
And now it's mainstream. I love her. I think her collar's too tight.
Well, it's here we go.
You have to be able to get two fingers, and I couldn't even get one.
Maybe to get the shock collar to work, it has to be on really tight
It's a lot of neck meat.
because she has a lot of neck meat, is what his trainer taught him. I don't know. Yeah, I thought she was an old dog when I first saw her hanging out with no toys and just chilling like that. Then I learned that she's only 3 years old and she's not like being allowed to be playful and active on a whim. And I was like, this seems more like an old lethargic obedience dog, which would be great for him to achieve that. Kai could be laying her in her comfy spot when she's like 8 or 9 or 10, and she's like just wants to recline there. She comes back up. She's like, oh, an old dog. But at that age, she should be much more, free to experience exposure and have fun and definitely play with toys. I don't see any. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's quite clearly using Kai as a prop. I have a dog that like would be beautiful as a prop, but I would never use him as a prop because he's not a prop. He's a living, breathing creature. I would never treat a dog like a teddy bear because my dog is not my teddy bear. I can't force him to cuddle, right? I can't force him to do anything. He only does what he wants, and he only, you know, obeys me because he respects me. There would never be an issue there, right? He did not come when I called him because he's comfy in his place and he's secure, and I don't need to make him come. It's not an emergency. There's nothing happening right now. He knows the difference. So this is just summing it all up. It beeps, chat.
It has the capacity to vibrate, and that's it. Are you happy? That's it.
I love Dexter. That was such a classic show. I don't know. I don't know. Even if it's an e-collar, even if it's just an e-collar, it's still a big misuse of an e-collar.
Motherfucker, come here.
Oh, what the hell? If I saw that, let's see that again.
Motherfucker.
Now, if you know me, then you know I'm not lying. One of my toxic traits is that I'm the kind of person, if I see this in public, I'm going to make it my issue. I'm not saying I'm going to start no stuff, but I'm like, I'm going to say out loud, hey, that's wrong. Don't do that. You just hurt that dog. If you do that, I wonder what you do behind closed doors. Hey, who are you? I want to call into question this. Now I'm going to try to publicly embarrass you. If that makes you flustered and freak out, that's up to you. But I'm just going to say what it is and call out the truth is what I saw and say, hey, you doing that, that's hurting the dog. You seem to hurt the dog flippantly without any care for it. You either don't know that you're hurting the dog or you deliberately don't care that you're hurting the dog. And that means you're cruel and not cool. So I think I just saw you and I don't know anything about you, but you're either stupid or not cool. Is what I would say to anyone I saw doing that. I would do that in public. No hesitations. If anyone who knows me will verify that. You would have to stop me, and it would be hard to stop me. I would be compulsed to do that.
Stay. If you run right now, I'll fucking kill you. Like, I'll actually
You can joke about that, but your dogs know what you're saying to them. I joke about that sometimes too, but dogs know. Dogs know what you're saying. Don't pull a dog like that. That's not funny. And then the dog disobeying, maybe he feels like when the dog disobeys you, that like emasculates him. My dog has disobeyed me. That didn't emasculate me. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to be scared of being like, oh my God, I'm not like military dog macho man with my dog. He's not like being a malinois and jumping up and doing what I want him to when I snap my fingers. Like, chill. It's like I've had obedience dogs. I know about different levels of obedience. Like, dogs are beautiful at all levels of obedience. Yeah, we will never know. Only Hassan, in his heart of hearts, knows the truth, right? Well, Kaya knows, but she doesn't understand what happened. Yeah, don't treat Kaya like a revenue source. It's a real concern because normalizing treating dogs and solving sort of like dog behavioral issues with e-collars is a bad thing to normalize, especially for streaming and for revenue on stream. And I think Twitch needs to take a stance on that, that like we don't support dogs being like used as props on stream and like training dogs in these problematic ways to be used on stream and stay in one spot. Because if more people do that, it could generate dangerous dogs, in fact. I would take that as a pretty reasonable stance. So we shouldn't normalize this. Twitch shouldn't normalize people, using e-collars on their dogs on stream. So if he did use that, I don't know if that's in their TOS, if you're not supposed to like use an e-collar on a dog on stream, but he shouldn't be doing that either way. Even if it's not in their terms of service, they should consider maybe putting that in their terms of service to not use e-collars on dogs on stream. They just don't want to incentivize it, right? Because attaching a monetary incentive, a money incentive to having your dog on stream and using an e-collar to keep them on stream is problematic, right? Because if a dog is motivated or mistrained in that respect, they could act unpredictably. And having unpredictable dogs, of course, it's only going to be one out of every couple hundred or thousand or whatever. But it's just like elephants, so you're whipping them with canes. But it's like, well, that doesn't always work. You can't always break the psychology of the animal the way you intend, and sometimes it has a snapback effect. All that welled up kind of behavior, all that suppressed behavior that you thought was extinct, snaps back, and they act out. They bark louder than they ever barked before, right? When you taught them to not bark. That's the fear of that sort of behavior in a dog. And I think we could be worried about that behavior sort of developing with Kaya based on what we've seen here today. All right, I think that's all I have to say on the matter. What's this on Twitter? What's this last thing on Twitter?
Just such a lib ass, like, oh, dude, please
I love the dog heart in the corner.
don't get a Frenchie. I just wrote a Vox article talking about how problematic they are. Like,
Yeah, I don't think people should get Frenchies. Like, if you have to adopt a dog that already is born, go ahead. But I would try to not support Frenchies. I have a hairless dog, and I don't even advocate a lot of people get that breed because they struggle, right? It's a big existence. It's a tough existence. So you should only have pedigree hairless dogs, like full hairless dogs. You should not get like a hairless Chihuahua because those are like, we shouldn't be creating hairless Chihuahuas. That's not a good thing. Those dogs, how to have a happy hairless Chihuahua? Like, yeah, one might be really happy when it meets the perfect owner, but like all the other ones that are living a really tough existence, like we should not have brought those creatures into this world. It's better to have like full breed healthy dogs. People might not agree on my stance on this, but like I think it's better to have healthy dogs than unhealthy dogs. So if a dog already exists and it's already been bred, like yeah, it's good to rescue it. You can have a Frenchie, you can have a dog. Don't judge anyone who has a dog, but like well, I said don't judge anyone who has a dog, but like judge them by their actions with their dog.
Breathing problems. I know they're incredibly fucking inbred. I don't give a shit.
He just doesn't care.
I know. I don't care. Like I don't give a shit. This is a dog. It's just such a
Okay,
lib
so
ass like.
I think that's everything we can possibly react to. I think I've given my entire logical breakdown of this. I don't want to read threads. Oh my God. Screw that. All right. Ending it here so I can review how the audio worked. Oh, my jump cuts. Wow. That's usually what Hassan's doing his instead of zapping his dog. He's like, I can jump cut to my face. Wow. That's what I've noticed